Hello, and welcome back to Mutant Memories. Today I'm going to talk about issue 3 of the original run of the New Mutants. The book initially came out on May 10th, 1983. It originally costed 60 cents to buy. I found this issue and back issues at one of my local comic book stores that sadly closed a while back. Again, there will be spoilers, and I really think if you can, you should read the story on your own, and then come to these videos if it's at all possible. But you don't have to, and if you don't care or have already read it, here we go. Dani is awoken from sleep by a crash of lightning. She is on edge and sees the creature that tried to kill her in the danger room outside her window. It appears for a moment and then is gone. She tells herself she must be seeing things. Then she wonders if her own power, the power to show and project images of people's darkest fears or deepest desires, is turning against her. She gets out of bed and grabs her hunting knife. She then sees a frightening beast in the doorway to her room, and it taunts her. She swipes at it with her knife and pulls away a mask it is wearing, and it reveals itself to be a bear. She recognizes it as the same bear that she believes murdered her parents. This is a throwback, but her powers showed her and her father a vision that led her to believe that this strange bear would kill her parents, and a short time later her parents both disappear after going off to hunt on the high grounds. She stabs the bear with her knife. Just as she calls out, "No!" She wakes up in her bed just fine, and the rest of the New Mutants and Charles Xavier come in to see if she's alright. Charles Xavier checks her out and determines it was just a bad dream. Dani is scared she is losing her mind, but Sam and Charles tell her everything will be okay. After everyone leaves her room, she finds her knife and looks at it to discover there's fresh blood on the blade. She realizes that the bear did exist. Dani goes to show Xavier the knife, but she overhears Xavier talking with someone about extreme paranoia and advanced schizophrenia. Dani is defeated and very sad that Xavier thinks she has simply lost her mind. She wonders if she just shows the bad parts of people to them because she's a wicked and evil person. But right after this, we are shown that Xavier was on the phone, and on the other end of the phone was Moira McTaggart. She hangs up on Charles because she feels he isn't trying hard enough to help. The person Moira and Charles are talking about, who actually unknown to Charles is his teenage son, David, later known as Legion. Banshee is with Moira and asks her why she was so impatient with Xavier, and she reveals she is upset remembering her own child had to be killed by the X-Men because he was simply too dangerous to live. Banshee, Sean, asks her to marry him and start a family with him. She tells him that she loves him, but she worries having kids would be dangerous. Banshee leaves and curses Moira's ex, the abusive politician. He then sees Illyana out in the distance with her arms raised, singing on a small hill overlooking the sea. He asked her what she was singing, and she tells him it was a song Aurora Storm taught her, and she was singing on her best friend's birthday to honor her memory. Banshee somehow knows that it's Kitty Pryde's birthday. He assumes Illyana is upset that the X-Men have been kidnapped by aliens and might be dead, and tells her they will probably come back and they have survived a lot worse. Illyana thinks to herself that she is thinking of the other reality's X-Men who died in the pocket dimension she grew up in, called Limbo, and she thinks about how some even died by her own hand. Back at the X-Mansion, Dani is taking a swim. Shan comes up to talk to her, and Dani tells her she feels like Xavier might be involved in all the strange things that have been happening to her. Shan and her decide to get all the New Mutants together so they can talk. Shan possesses every New Mutant and leaves messages to each of them to meet in the boathouse. Once they are all there, Dani explains what she has been feeling. Sam doesn't believe her at all that Xavier would be involved. He goes to leave, but when he opens the boathouse door, all he sees is an alien landscape. He shuts the door quickly, and when the others ask what's wrong, he tells them they would never believe him. Then they open the door and see the strange world outside. They decide they need to get to the house somehow, which must be contained in this possible illusion of a world. They think that Xavier is either in on this or a victim, just as they are. They decide not to cross the strange world outside, and Dani shows them a tunnel connected to the boathouse. She explains that even though Xavier has said these tunnels are off limits, she has been exploring them. But when she opens the tunnel, she is immediately grabbed by alien tentacles. The same being that tried to attack Dani in the danger room is now attacking all of the New Mutants. Dani tells them this is the monster she has been seeing, and the kids have a fight with the monster alien. which the readers know to be one of the alien race, the Brood. Sam blasts the creature and it disappears, leading to an opening in front of the kids. But the opening is different from the rest of the metal tunnelscape and appears to be organic matter. The group begrudgingly goes through the tunnel. There is more danger in the tunnel as a vine of some sort attacks Berto. Then, right after the mutants defeat the vine, Dani is carried away by a Brood that has wings. She tries to fight it, but promptly passes out. She wakes up in a room in the mansion, completely tied, as if she had been captured by a giant spider. The Brood explains that it is planning to put a queen egg into all the New Mutants, and that it has been using Dani's power to create many of the foes the New Mutants had faced before her being captured. The alien explains it's manifesting a solid presence because it's using the full potential of Dani's power. The mutants blast into the place where Dani is being kept. Sam blasts into the alien and Bobby helps him attack the creature. The creature disappears and Sam is puzzled. Dani yells that there's no time to explain and tells Shan to possess her. Shan tries to do this, but instead of getting to Dani, she instead has a link with the alien. Bobby hits Shan to free her. The alien reappears and attacks Rain. Dani yells again to Sam to take her out and that somehow she is the key. Sam blasts towards her and punches her in her face, and sure enough, all the threats disappear. Xavier mind links with the mutants and asks what's going on. There is a time skip and we see Dani sitting on the front porch of the X-Mansion at night. Bobby comes and talks with her. He tells her that Xavier believed their stories after searching their minds, and he has spent all day looking for where the alien might be hiding. Dani wonders if she should leave because she considers herself the weak link. Bobby tells her that they are all friends and teammates and that they must stick together. She hugs him and tells him that she finds it suspicious that this creature knew so much about them and about hidden aspects of her own power. She tells him that's something only Xavier would know and wonders if Xavier is somehow involved. Bobby tells her not to worry and says of Xavier, no one is that good of an actor. They both see a shooting star and Bobby says it must be good luck. Impressions when I read it long ago. I remember being fond of this issue when I first read it. I liked the storylines with the Brood, as I may have mentioned before. I also liked that Illyana was featured in the issue. The cool thing about this book is that it continues to set up the later Demon Bear storyline, but I will leave the discussion of that until I get to those issues. I also think that when I talk about the Demon Bear issues, that would probably be the best time to talk about the New Mutants movie. That review might get a little spicy, so watch for that. I'm half tempted to just ignore the movie, but I want people to know what the movie is like for a big fan, so I think my talking about it might be important. I remember thinking this issue was extremely well illustrated, but I still didn't love the issue because it had less character building. But I preferred the stories where it really showed these kids were just that, kids. I read this issue a little later than most of the other issues, so it wasn't as exciting as I think it could have been if I had read the whole series in order originally. I used to wish all the New Mutants had come out when I was younger, and that I was the right generation to have collected New Mutants as it came out. I really thought that the golden age of comics had passed, and all I could do was try and play catch-up. Thankfully, as I got older, I discovered some other comics to collect, and some indie and manga comics that were coming out as I read them, so I did get to enjoy the anticipation of a cliffhanger ending for myself. Also, the second volume of New Mutants came out around 2004, but I wasn't a huge fan of this book, even though I collected them on and off. Right before I entered college, the New Mutants Volume 3 came out, which I really liked, and I collected every single one of those, so I was able to enjoy those stories as they were being released. Impressions and thoughts upon rereading. In this issue, I'm glad that Dani's powers are more explained. I also like that Dani is correct that Professor Xavier is somehow connected to the monster. I liked that in these early issues there is some action, but I do take issue with how self-controlled Sam and Bobby's powers seem to be, which is kind of a consistent gripe I have for these early issues, so I might say it a couple times. But I would like to see more of their process of learning their powers. Weirdly, they have more trouble with their powers in issues after this one. I guess the comic book was just trying to find its footing. I see that Bobby mentions his uncle Joao. I'm probably going to butcher that pronunciation. I'll look up how to say it.
Joao da Costa.
And he talks about how his uncle told scary stories. I tried to do some research to see if Bobby's uncle is an actual character or just a side detail. I couldn't really find anything, but I did find out that there are several Brazilian writers with that name. One of them wrote a book called The Grey's Secret, which is a book about aliens. I'm pretty sure this isn't actually a name drop to a real person or a person in the X universe, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I also wondered how Banshee knew it was Kitty Pryde's birthday. It seemed a little far-fetched to me. I guess he knows so the story with Illyana can make sense. I thought this was interesting, but I think the real action happens when the X-Men return to the X-Mansion. The storyline actually is concluded in Uncanny X-Men 167, so I'll go over that briefly just so the storyline is concluded, and it makes sense why issue 4 seems to jump so far forward with no real resolution to the Brood in the New Mutants. Uncanny X-Men 167, the plot. Basically, the New Mutants are watching Matlock. I'm not sure if this happens right after the events of New Mutants number 3 or later, but they are all just watching television, when suddenly the X-Men literally crash into the mansion and the New Mutants freak out and think they are being attacked, so they attack the X-Men. The weird part about this, I thought, is in one of the first issues of New Mutants, Dani looks at photos of some of the X-Men. I'm pretty sure one of the people in the photos was Colossus, so I wonder how she doesn't at least recognize him, but maybe it all happened too fast. Kitty is the one person I know Dani saw, but Kitty is sneaking into another part of the mansion, so I guess that checks out. Also, it's weird because Cyclops, after a few moments, tells them to back down and they won't get hurt. I think they should have handled this situation a little bit better, but I guess the X-Men don't know who has been taken over by the Brood and who hasn't. They're pretty sure Charles Xavier is the remaining Brood mother. Maybe they were afraid the Brood-infested Xavier would somehow use one of the kids against them. I don't know, it just struck me as kind of strange. The kids actually do okay at first against the X-Men, but the X-Men overtake them. Meanwhile, Kitty Pryde, known as Sprite or later Shadowcat, wearing a fantastic space uniform, is looking for Xavier. Still, when she finds him, she doesn't attack him immediately, and he proves that he is taken over by an evil force when he attacks her. She is thrown into the main hall where X-Men and New Mutants are still fighting. The X-Men are shocked, but even more shocked when Professor Xavier greets them. Before their eyes, Xavier splits open to become a Brood Queen. The Brood Queen explains it will soon change all of the X-Men into broodlings. The X-Men finally tell the New Mutants who they are, and they team up to fight the Brood Mother that was at one time Charles Xavier. This proves to be difficult because the Brood maintains Xavier's mutant powers and can read the thoughts of all the mutants fighting them, and it can see their moves before they even do them. The Starjammers, who are space pirates led by Corsair, who is actually Cyclops' father, appear out of nowhere and help them to mostly defeat the Brood. When they approach the fallen Brood, they realize that Xavier is still present in the creature, and they decide not to kill it until they try to reverse the transformation to save Charles Xavier. Everyone goes aboard the Starjammers' ship, the Starjammer, and Kitty and Xavier go to the medical bay. The New Mutants are amazed that they are in space, and we see Colossus and Illyana talking to Kitty as she wakes up from being unconscious. Moira McTaggart, who I guess was also taken into space, explains that Professor Xavier's body was destroyed, but they think that they can clone his body and transplant his consciousness. There were some other plot points having to do with Galactus, Shi'ar, and the Fantastic Four, but I don't really think we need to go into them, so I'll just skip them. Lilandra talks to Reed Richards through holographic transmission and then meets with the Starjammers. Everyone is kind of just standing around when Charles Xavier comes out in a space wheelchair. Moira tells Charles not to overexert himself, and to everyone's surprise, Xavier, who has been unable to walk, stands up. He explains his body has been restored to the state before he was disabled. This doesn't last too long because his mind makes him feel pain due to some psychosomatic thing his mind was doing. So he can walk, but his mind will not allow him to. Xavier officially introduces the X-Men to the New Mutants and tells Kitty that she will now be studying with the New Mutants who are closer to her own age. Spoiler alert, she is a member for the New Mutants for like 5 seconds before rejoining the X-Men in one of my favorite issues of the Uncanny X-Men, number 168, named Professor Xavier is a Jerk. But to get back to New Mutants number 3, I guess I would give this one a 7 out of 10, kind of keeping in line with my ratings for the other early issues of the comic book. I gave it a 2 for art, a 2 for story, 2 for character development, and 1 for how it holds up. That's about it for this video. Have you read this issue? If you have, I would love to know your thoughts. Have a good day or night or whatever, and see you in the next video. Ashling out!